You ever have a day that starts off so normal it lulls you into a false sense of security? That was me, shirt ironed, tie straight, that weak smile I always put on for these cursed family gatherings stretched thin across my face. I was the idiot who thought today would just be about awkward conversations, dry turkey, and my wife pretending for the 50th time that she still liked me. Instead, I got a front row seat to the world shattering beneath my feet. It all started with my daughter, Emily. She's 19, at that dangerous age where she thinks she knows everything, and you're just the old fool who can't keep up. When I stepped toward the kitchen to grab a soda, she practically threw herself in front of me, laughing a little too loudly. "Dad, no, you don't need to go in there," she chirped, trying to nudge me back toward the living room like I was some confused puppy. I should have known right then. You live enough years, you learn to hear the false notes in a person's voice. Hers was a whole damn symphony of it. "What's in the kitchen?" I asked casually, already sidestepping her. "Nothing. Seriously, just stay and talk to Uncle Jeff. You two always get along, right?" I just nodded, smiled, and kept walking. Because when someone tries that hard to stop you from seeing something, you have to look. It's a rule, a survival instinct. I pushed open the swinging kitchen door, and that's when I saw it. The punchline to a joke everyone but me had been in on for years. There was my wife, Donna. Her arms wrapped around our neighbor, Tom freaking Jensen. A man whose handshake used to crush mine at every barbecue, whose fake chuckles at my bad jokes now sounded like mockery echoing off the walls. But it wasn't just the hug that hit me like a gut punch. It was her hand, buried casually in the pocket of his jeans, so familiar, so intimate that it sucked the air right out of the room. They froze when they saw me. Not with guilt. No, with boredom. Like a teacher catching two kids passing notes, barely worth the scolding. Donna smirked first. God, that smirk. It's burned into my memory. She shrugged lazily and said, "Come on, I've been cheating on you for years, right under your nose. You didn't even notice." If that was a dagger, what came next was the twist. My daughter, my own flesh and blood, leaned against the counter with her arms crossed and said, "Yeah, everyone knows. He's like a second father to us." I didn't say a word, not a single syllable. I just turned around and walked out, ignoring the way their voices followed me, laughter dripping with cruelty. They thought that was it. They thought I'd crumple like a cheap folding chair. But let me tell you something. Pain, real pain, doesn't break you. It builds you. It sharpens you into something they can't even imagine. I went out to the garage, quietly, deliberately. My pulse wasn't racing. It was steady, deadly steady. I opened my old metal toolbox. The same one my dad gave me when I was 16, back when the world still made sense. And there, tucked inside the bottom drawer, right where I left it all those years ago, was the key. The key to something I had built in secret, long before any of them thought I was worth betraying. I smiled for the first time that day. A real smile. Cold. Dangerous. I slid the key into my pocket and went back inside. The kitchen was still filled with their smug faces, their laughter like static against the walls. They didn't even notice me standing there. Not yet. But they would. Oh, they would. And when they did it, it would already be too late. They kept laughing. Tom's hand was still in my wife's back pocket like she was some cheap prize he'd won at the county fair. Emily leaned against the fridge, chewing gum like she was the star of some high school play called How to Break Your Father's Heart. And me? I stood there, invisible in my own home. Or so they thought. "Hey, Dad," Emily said, finally noticing me. "You gonna cry or something?" I didn't blink. I didn't flinch. I just smiled, that same tight, polite smile I wore when I signed the mortgage papers, when I paid for Emily's first car, when I buried my pride piece by piece over the years. "No, sweetheart," I said evenly. "I'm just thinking." Donna raised an eyebrow, mocking. "Thinking? That's new for you." I chuckled. Not because it was funny, but because she was right about one thing. I was thinking harder and sharper than I ever had before. I turned and walked out, leaving the kitchen door swinging in my wake. I could feel their laughter chasing me down the hallway. It clung to my skin like smoke. Upstairs, in the bedroom, I moved with calm precision. Drawer by drawer, shelf by shelf, I gathered what I needed. My passport. My backup cell phone, the one no one knew about. A thick manila envelope I'd hidden under the floorboards years ago, back when a small voice in my gut first whispered, "Be ready." Inside the envelope was my insurance policy. Copies of account numbers, login credentials, a USB drive packed with documents I had quietly collected over time, proof of things Donna would never want anyone else to see. Financial fraud. hidden debts. Affairs, not just with Tom, but with two others before him. Yeah, I knew. I always knew. I had just chosen to believe the lie because it was easier than admitting the truth. But now? Now it was time to stop pretending. Time to stop playing the good, oblivious husband. In the closet, tucked inside an old winter coat, I found the final piece. A dusty briefcase. Black, unassuming, heavy. Inside was the agreement I'd made years ago with an old college buddy, a cybersecurity expert turned private investigator. Someday, he had told me, you might need this. People think betrayal only hurts if you care. But if you plan for it, you turn it into power. Back then, I laughed. Now, I understood. I called him from the burner phone. 3 rings. Then his voice, calm and familiar. You ready? I looked out the bedroom window. The backyard stretched wide and empty. The life I had built, piece by piece, sat there, hollowed out and gutted like a rotted tree. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. He didn't ask for details. He already knew. Meet me at the usual spot in an hour, he said. Bring everything. I ended the call and stood there for a long minute, breathing, centering myself. Below me, I could still hear faint traces of laughter, Donna's shrill cackle, Tom's deep rumble, Emily's giggles. Like hyenas picking the bones clean off a carcass they thought was already dead. But they had no idea. They didn't realize the man they thought they had destroyed had planned for this moment. That their betrayal wasn't going to end with me curled up in a ball, sobbing into the carpet. No. Their betrayal was going to end with me walking away clean. And them choking on the wreckage I left behind. I zipped up the duffel bag, slung it over my shoulder, and gave one last glance around the bedroom. The bed where we made love. The dresser where Donna used to leave little notes that said, love you more. All of it. Meaningless now. As I reached the stairs, I heard Emily's voice drift up from the kitchen. Think he's gonna run crying to his brother? Maybe he'll move into a motel or something. Pathetic. Tom laughed, a deep, smug sound. Good riddance. Now we can finally do this without hiding. Donna chimed in, her voice syrupy and mean. Honestly, I should have dumped him years ago. The man's as useless as a screen door on a submarine. I smiled wider. Good. Let them think they won. Let them believe the man they humiliated was just going to slink away and disappear. Because when I returned, I wouldn't be the fool they remembered. I would be something else entirely. Something they weren't ready for. Something they would never forget. I didn't slam the door on my way out. Didn't make a scene. Just pulled it shut with a soft click that felt final, like sealing a coffin. The sun was setting, that angry burnt orange that stains the world before night takes it. Good. Darkness would be my ally tonight. I drove without music. No need for noise. I wanted to hear my own breathing slow, even, steady. The meeting place was 20 minutes outside of town, an abandoned service station nobody paid attention to anymore. Not even the drunks who wandered the back roads. When I pulled in, I saw him already waiting. Mason, the old friend who knew how to bury things, secrets, identities, lives, and leave no trace behind. He was sitting on the hood of his truck, chewing a toothpick like a man with all the time in the world. You look like hell, he said, hopping down. Feel worse, I replied, tossing the duffel bag at his feet. He crouched, opened it, and whistled low under his breath. You weren't kidding. You got enough ammo in here to sink a small empire. It's not just about sinking them, I said. It's about making sure they know exactly why they're drowning. He grinned. I always did like your style. Mason got to work immediately, setting up 2 burner laptops in the backseat of his truck, connecting them to a satellite uplink nobody was supposed to know he had. 1 laptop for me. 1 for him. Within minutes, we were inside every financial record Donna and Tom had ever touched. Their phones. Their social media. Their hidden email accounts. Every dirty little corner they thought was private. You want exposure? Mason asked. Or you want implosion? Both, I said, my voice hard. Mason nodded, approving. You're gonna love this. He showed me the blueprints, a digital minefield that would collapse their lives from the inside out. Bank fraud. Fake tax returns. Donna's misuse of the charity accounts she helped run, the one she used to boast about at PDA meetings. Tom's side hustle? Running gambling rings under the table, right out of the VFW hall. Real wholesome, salt-of-the-earth stuff. It wasn't just betrayal. It was corruption. They weren't going to just lose each other. They were going to lose everything. And the daughter? Mason asked carefully, tapping a key. I paused. Emily. It would have been so easy to lump her into the carnage. So easy to let her crash and burn with them. But no. She was young, stupid, easily led. Donna had poisoned her mind the way only a mother knows how. She wasn't innocent, but she wasn't beyond saving either. Leave her out of it, I said finally. Let her watch. Let her learn. Mason smiled a little. Ruthless. I respect it. He handed me a small device, no bigger than a car key fob. One click, he said. You decide when. What happens when I press it? I asked, even though I already knew. He leaned in, his grin wolfish. Everything burns. I turned the device over in my hand, feeling its weight, light, but heavier than any stone. You sure you want to go through with this? He asked, in a tone that wasn't mocking, but not sympathetic either. I thought of Donna's smirk, Tom's smug laugh, Emily's betrayal, the way they looked at me, like I was less than nothing. I thought of all the sacrifices, the sleepless nights, the silent prayers, and I thought of how they threw it all away like garbage, right in front of me. Yeah, I said, my voice a low growl. I'm sure. Mason clapped me on the back. Then tonight, brother, you stop being a victim. Tonight, you become a ghost. He packed up quickly, erasing every trace we'd been there. We didn't need to meet again. I had everything I needed in the palm of my hand. I slid the device into my jacket pocket, got into my truck, and drove back toward the lights of the town, a town where my old life was already crumbling. I parked 2 streets over from my house, in the dark, engine off, watching from a distance like a hunter stalking wounded prey. Inside, the party had kicked into full swing. More neighbors had arrived, more familiar faces, more laughter. None of them knowing that the clock was ticking, that the bomb was already wired. All it needed was one final push. I leaned back in the seat, smiling to myself. Let them enjoy their night. It would be the last good night any of them would ever have. The house glowed warm and golden from the outside. Laughter spilled through the open windows, rising into the thick summer night like smoke signals. Inside, they were toasting to my humiliation, celebrating the slow death of the fool who had built that life brick by brick, cheering each other on like they were winning some grand prize. Good. Let them celebrate. It made the fall that much sweeter. I pulled out my burner phone, the one Mason set up for me, clean and untraceable, and opened the app. One click. That's all it would take. But not yet. I wanted them fat and comfortable. I wanted the final blow to feel like a betrayal from God himself. I sat back and waited, letting the minutes drag out like hours. Across the street, old Mrs. Henderson was watering her garden, waving absent-mindedly at every car that passed. She had no idea she was about to witness history. My phone buzzed. Mason. Video's live. Everything's ready. I opened the link. There, in high-definition glory, was the security camera feed from Donna's secret storage unit, the one she rented under a fake name, thinking nobody would ever find it. Inside, stacks of cash. Boxes labeled donation fund, church raffle, charity drive. All stolen. Every dollar pilfered from bake sales, PDA events, veteran fundraisers, you name it. If there was a way to skim money from good people trying to do good things, Donna found it. Mason had already sent anonymous packages, evidence bundles, to the local news station, the police department, and a few select concerned citizens groups. They would be delivered any minute now. I flipped to another feed, this one from Tom's secret poker den. Illegal gambling. Drugs changing hands. Cash stacks taller than my kitchen counter. His whole good neighbor image was about to go up in smoke. And the best part? Not a shred of it pointed back to me. I was a ghost, remember? I checked the clock. 9:18 p.m. It was time. I opened the app Mason had built for me and hovered my thumb over the red button. The word beneath it said only one thing: release. One click, and every file we had, every video, every photo, every damning receipt, would blast across town. Emails, anonymous tip-offs, cloud uploads set to public, social media leaks. Their dirty laundry wouldn't just be aired, it would be floodlit, shouted from rooftops, printed on damn banners. I thought briefly about Emily. Would she be hurt? Would she feel the sting when her perfect second daddy fell off his pedestal, dragging her real mother down with him? Maybe. But lessons like this, they cut deep for a reason. I exhaled once. Slow. Final. Then I pressed the button. The app chirped cheerfully, deploying payload. And just like that, the world began to burn. Inside the house, it started small. A cell phone buzzing. Then another. And another. Tom's face creased in confusion as he stared at his screen. Donna leaned in to look, her drink halfway to her lips. Voices rose. Panic crept in. More phones chimed. More frantic scrolling. People stood up. Shouts. Chairs scraping against the floor. Tom's face turned ashen. Donna dropped her glass, red wine bleeding across the white carpet. It was happening faster than I even imagined. Faster than they could process. The news stations picked it up first. Rapid-fire alerts about embezzlement investigations, illegal gambling dens exposed, a breaking community scandal. Names were named. Faces were shown. And there they were, Tom Jensen, Donna Jensen. Public enemy number 1 and 2. Accusations flying. Community groups posting demands for investigations. Their friends, the same smug faces who had been laughing an hour ago, were now furiously typing comments online, cutting ties, claiming they had no idea what kind of people they really were. Cowards. Rats fleeing a sinking ship. Through the living room window, I watched Donna crumple onto the couch, clutching her head, tears streaking her perfect makeup. Tom was pacing like a caged animal, his phone pressed to his ear, barking into the receiver, probably calling some sleazy lawyer who was already reading the headlines. And Emily. She just stood there, frozen, mouth slightly open, phone clutched to her chest like it might protect her from the fallout. She looked around at the chaos and, for the first time that night, I saw it. Doubt. Good. Maybe she was starting to realize the truth about the people she idolized. Maybe she was starting to see the man they had cast aside wasn't so powerless after all. I leaned back against the seat, hands behind my head, and watched my old life collapse. No violence. No screaming. No drama. Just pure, surgical devastation. Cold. Precise. Final. The ultimate revenge isn't shouting, or fighting, or some grand, fiery confrontation. The ultimate revenge is letting them bury themselves. And making sure the whole damn world is watching when they do. And I hadn't even gotten to the second part of my plan yet. Because if they thought this was bad, they hadn't seen anything yet. They say the internet never forgets. Turns out, neither do I. In under an hour, the wreckage spread like wildfire. Tom's face, once the grinning, good old boy fixture at every block party, now plastered all over the local news next to words like racketeering, gambling operations, and fraud investigation. Donna's smiling PDA portraits were yanked off community center walls and replaced online with screenshots of damning evidence. Wire transfers. Forgery. Charity funds funneled into personal accounts. Neighbors started gathering on the sidewalk, buzzing like angry hornets. Phones pressed to their ears. Whispers cutting through the thick night air. Donna's sister, her own blood, posted a status an hour later. We are deeply saddened and disgusted. We had no knowledge of Donna's criminal behavior. Translation? She's dead to US. It was better than I could have imagined. And I wasn't even close to finished. Around midnight, Tom tried to leave. I watched from my truck as he stumbled out the front door, dragging a duffel bag stuffed so full it might as well have been a surrender flag. He barely made it 3 feet before flashing blue and red lights washed over the lawn. 3 squad cars. No sirens, just the heavy, inescapable weight of inevitability. 2 officers stepped out, crisp and professional, while a third approached Tom with slow, measured steps. Thomas Jensen? The lead officer asked. Tom opened his mouth, maybe to lie, maybe to beg, but it didn't matter. You're under arrest for suspicion of illegal gambling operations, tax evasion, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The words hit him like bullets. He sagged, the duffel slipping from his fingers. Handcuffs snapped around his wrist with a satisfying click. Donna burst onto the porch in a bathrobe, mascara streaked down her face, shrieking like a wounded animal. Wait, you didn't do anything. It's a mistake. It's a setup. The officer didn't even blink. Another pair of cuffs appeared. And you, ma'am, are being detained for questioning in connection to embezzlement of charitable funds. Donna screamed as they marched her down the front steps, flailing like a woman possessed. Nobody came to her defense. No neighbors. No family. Not even Emily. She just stood there on the porch, arms wrapped around herself, watching the fairy tale she believed in unravel at her feet. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. When they were loaded into the cruisers and driven away, sirens cutting into the night, I finally stepped out of my truck. No one noticed me. Not yet. I crossed the street slow and steady, each step deliberate, savoring the silence that had fallen over the block. When I reached the porch, Emily was sitting on the steps, her face pale, her eyes wide and hollow. She looked up at me like a scared little kid. Did you? She whispered. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just sat down beside her and looked out at the empty street. For a long moment, we said nothing. Then, softly, barely more than a breath, she asked, "Why?" I turned my head, finally meeting her gaze. "Because, I said, voice low and even. When you betray someone who spent their whole life building you a future, you don't just hurt them. You destroy yourself." The front door creaked open behind us. It was my wife's mother, Donna's mother, the woman who once told me at our wedding reception that I better be good enough for her daughter. Now she looked like a ghost, robe pulled tight around her bony frame, staring at me like I was death himself. "Get out," she rasped. "You have no place here." I smiled, slow and cold. "This," I said, motioning to the crumbling house behind her, the ruins of the life they built on lies. "This isn't my place anymore." I stood, dusted off my jeans, and looked down at Emily. "I'm sorry you had to see it this way," I said. "But maybe now you'll understand who your mother really was." I turned and walked away without another word. No goodbye. No second glance. Some things don't deserve mourning. Some things deserve to burn. And I wasn't finished yet. Because buried in Donna and Tom's accounts was a little investment account, one they thought nobody knew about. An account tied to the deed of this very house. An account that, once triggered the right way, would default everything they owned, including this house. In a matter of days, this place wouldn't just be empty. It would be mine, and I wouldn't keep it. No, I'd bulldoze it to the ground. Turn it into a barren field. Let the weeds grow wild where all their lives once stood. A fitting tribute. By the time I pulled into the motel parking lot, the adrenaline had faded, leaving behind something colder. Something steadier. Not rage. Not even satisfaction. Just clarity. The room was small, plain white walls, a battered dresser, a sagging mattress, but it was a hell of a lot more honest than the house I just left behind. I dropped the duffel bag on the bed, kicked off my boots, and sat by the window, watching the empty street. I had time. Time to savor the next move. Because Donna and Tom, the Bonnie and Clyde of suburban fraud, were just the beginning. They thought public humiliation was the worst thing I could do to them. They had no idea how deep I was willing to cut. While they sat in a holding cell downtown, sweating under harsh fluorescent lights, their phones, and every device tied to their cloud accounts, were busy leaking everything. Not just the evidence of their crimes. No, that would have been too easy. The affair photos? The drunk voicemails? The mocking group chats with Donna's friends, trash-talking everyone they knew? All of it public. Every lie they ever told. Every fake smile they flashed at neighbors. Every smug backstab. Exposed. It wasn't just strangers piling on now, it was their own circle, the same people they drank margaritas with every 4th of July. The real poison wasn't the legal trouble. It was the social death. Because in places like ours, once you lose your reputation, you're done. Donna's face was already a meme. Tom's gambling ring was trending on Twitter under the hashtag #FamilyValuesMyAss. Sponsors pulled out of charity events. Donna's women's empowerment group, the one she chaired for years, collapsed overnight. Tom's construction business? Dead on arrival. No one wants their kid's little league field renovated by a man under federal investigation. At 2:34 a.m., my burner phone buzzed again. "Mason. Transfer complete. You're the legal owner of 228 Willow Lane. Congratulations." I leaned back and laughed quietly. In exactly 72 hours, after the expedited foreclosure triggered by Tom's shady loans, the house would be legally, officially mine. Not that I intended to live there. Oh no. I had better plans. The next morning, while Donna sat in an interrogation room blubbering about being framed, and Tom cursed out an overworked public defender, I filed demolition papers. 228 Willow Lane wasn't going to stand as some monument to my suffering. It was going to become nothing. I already pictured it. The bulldozers leveling the garden Donna spent thousands on, the porch where Tom used to wave smugly at passing cars, the kitchen where they laughed behind my back. Reduced to dust. Erased. And I would watch every second of it. But I wasn't finished. See, there was still one loose thread. Emily. I owed her the truth. Not the sugar-coated, half-assed version they fed her growing up. The real truth. The kind that scars you deep enough to change the person you become. So I sat down at the cheap motel desk, pulled out a yellow legal pad, and started writing. I didn't sugarcoat it. I didn't make excuses. I told her everything. How her mother laughed about me with Tom for years. How they spent money stolen from her friends' fundraisers on vacations and jewelry. How they planned to cut me out completely once enough time passed, treating me like some unwanted relic. And most importantly, how I had let it happen. How I had seen the signs, ignored them, lied to myself to keep the peace. Because I loved them too much to see them for what they really were. I finished the letter, folded it carefully, and sealed it in an envelope. Wrote her name across the front. Not Emily, my daughter. Just Emily. Because she needed to stand on her own now. No safety nets, no illusions. I dropped it in the mail that afternoon, addressed to the only place she could still call home. The broken, abandoned house they once laughed inside. Let her find it. Let her sit on the splintered porch and read about the empire they built on sand. Let her choose what kind of person she wanted to be from here on out.